AskReddit by IAMDA boss. What can make a monster in a game not scary? Tried playing Phasmophobia alone in the dark once. Someone suggested I keep pretending I'm hosting a ghost hunting show and narrate everything dramatically. Ended up laughing at my own one-liners instead of freaking out at every creak and whisper. 10/10 would recommend for turning creepy atmospheres into improv comedy hour. Will keep that in mind for the next time I play a horror game. Thanks. During my Dead Space playthrough, I discovered that if you pretend the necromorphs are just overly aggressive door-to-door salesmen, the horror element kind of dissolves. Instead of dreading every encounter, I found myself mentally preparing my best "no, thank you, I'm really not interested in your space vacuums today" speech. Not sure if it lessened the scares or just made me better at rejection, but it definitely added an unexpected twist to survival horror. The game being multiplayer. Once you're in a group it generally stops being scary, and if you're with friends it shifts to comedy. This is true and isn't. If used correctly, multiplayer can sometimes make a game more scary. Phasmophobia is a great example because sometimes the ghost only interacts with one person, and even though there aren't any jump scares or loud noises coming whenever the ghost starts hunting, it usually freaks anybody out, at least people who play it for fun and don't speedrun it. Lethal Company is also a good example because if you're traveling with your friend and he suddenly gets taken by the bracken, you're just left alone with no more comfort. That's a really good way horror can be used in multiplayer. Letting the player get comfortable with their friend and then taking that from them, leaving them vulnerable and alone. I plan on doing this too by making the monster steal your friends if they travel in a group sometimes. It's not a 100% it will do that, but that will be one of the many things it. When I was playing Resident Evil 7 on VR, someone told me if it gets too scary intense, just set the controller down and let the monsters kill you. Makes it way less terrifying when you aren't frantically hitting buttons to avoid death and just watch it happen like a movie. So basically the monster being able to kill you instantly. Too much information. If I know a weakness or a pattern it follows, I'm no longer afraid of it. That's how Subnautica progresses, but I view it as a strength of the game and not a weakness. You start off absolutely terrified, and then you adapt and learn and overcome, and by the end you're just peacefully at home amongst all your fish friends, even the big ones. Googly eyes. Immediate exposure. There is a reason why games like Alien Isolation worked so damn well. And it's because you don't immediately see the monster, Xeno, you can hear it though. Or the screams of its victims in a not so far off room. It's fucking terrifying, and I've always been a horror buff who wasn't scared of any game I played, Resident Evil, Dead Space, etc. And it's not even the design. It's the intelligence of that creature. I don't even call it an RE. Because it's not. It is a xenomorph. And it's unrelenting. And you'll always be its prey. No matter where you hide. She'll always find you. Always. And if you fight, sure, she might leave for 20 minutes or so. But next time you're crawling through a vent and your flashlight goes out, accept your fate. It won't be slow. Make it wear squeaky shoes so there are funny noises when it walks or runs. Watch a speedrun. Amnesia, The Dark Descent scared the hell out of me till I watched some dude distract one with a box, then ran into a corner and clipped through a wall. Same thing for technical breakdown videos. That turns all the scary stuff into easy to understand gameplay mechanics. Yeah, I watched someone play the game and I'd care if he didn't play it well or what, but he sometimes hid under beds for several minutes, and after seeing it for a bit, it was just a normal adversary to avoid, not spookier than someone playing catch. If they are wearing a bikini and dress like my grandma. A chainsaw bayonet. Unibrow. Easy to kill. Can't remember the game, but there was an enemy that was supposed to be horrific terrifying, but I killed it in a few seconds and laughed at it. Knowing how it works. Once you understand the mechanics of how, for example, the ghost works with the sanity system phasmophobia, it loses an incredible amount of fear factor. Once you understand the ways that it works and what all it can do, it loses so much. It's always better to remain ignorant of how systems interact in horror games. When they glitch into a wall so bad you can just walk right up and look at them. Amnesia the Bunker. Outlast was pretty scary as a 13-year-old, but once you understand the generic template that almost all horror games follow, they become so predictable it's not even fun. I've had so many more bust my knee on the bottom of the desk jumpscare moments from playing Counter-Strike than any horror game. A bow, a pink ballerina costume and a crown. Looking less like a slithering gross demon man. Give it a silly hat or have it giggle instead of growl. Suddenly, it's less nightmare fuel and more like a quirky sidekick. Beating him. Low health pool. Being very deadly against everyone else but barely being able to scratch you. Good lighting. If they look like a blob of flesh with a skull or some shit like that. I think that overly scarified a monster is designed, the less scarier it gets. In my opinion, I think monsters should begin to have a more uncanny approach out of an monsterly one. What do I mean by that? Let me explain with an example. Let's take a common average man, Jim. He looks normal. Now let's, perhaps make his skin more yellow, iris is considerably dilated, long limbs and or missing a feature, like some fingers, ears, eyebrows. A big grin isn't very scary tbh. Instead, switch to a smile, not with open mouth, but the mouth itself is wide, basically from ear to ear. Perhaps it might not be scary that much, but it gives a feel of discomfort, which can progressively add to fear in the right conditions. But I guess unfortunately with the rise of analog horror, that type of design has become overrated. Purely my opinion BTW. Googly eyes.